Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all-Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to Rebel Watch. I'm Ez and this is Mike, and we just finished The Last Jedi. How do you feel, Mike?
Shocked.
Yeah, me too. Shocked, and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
We had said initially conflicted, but overall, I am very, very happy, and I want to go back and watch this movie more than I did The Force Awakens.
Yes.
So I think that's something I've thought about is like when I got out of Force Awakens, I thought to myself, all right, yeah, I want to watch it again. And I watched it a couple more times because I'm a fanatic.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep. You are?
I am. I'm kind of really into Star Wars.
Yeah,
all right.
I guess so.
So
Maybe we should make an all Star Wars channel.
we probably should. Maybe we should call it
Rebel Watch?
if you want.
That's a pretty cool name.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
all right. So but when I left The Force Awakens, felt like I knew what was going on. Yeah. I even felt like we had a pretty good jumping point as to where I kind of thought I knew where things were going to go.
Exactly.
I felt pretty confident in our predictions video the other day.
Yeah. And what happened with that?
We ought to take it down.
Probably.
It's embarrassing.
Embarrassing.
That's not embarrassing. It just shows like we were so off. So many people were so off.
Yes.
You could not have predicted what happened in this movie.
No.
We haven't given anything away yet, so full disclaimer here. If you aren't ready for spoilers, just shut it off and go watch the movie and then come back and listen to what we have to say if you want to.
Yeah.
Non-spoiler review is I'm going to go see it several times. It was awesome, highly entertaining.
Yes. You have to, because there's so much that happens, and I think there's so much emotion that we're feeling right now.
Yes.
A little conflict, I'm honestly
Processing.
a little drained.
Yeah.
Because this movie was nonstop.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I think that was a spoiler. Mike just gave a little spoiler away there. Sorry about that.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yep, that'll make sense.
Oh, wait, you do it?
After.
You go ahead and do it. There we go. Now we got it. Okay.
That was nailed it.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
That
on
was
it.
a good call. I forgot about that.
But, so yeah, I think, guys, non-spoiler review, just go watch it. I mean, it's awesome. The one thing I'll say is it is way more complicated than The Force Awakens.
Yes.
That was just complex. The themes were more complex. Yeah. The symbolism, the parallels were way more complex.
And I think, and that's comparing the two too. I think, I don't know. I think it was so different that it seems even more complex than maybe it really is.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe that makes us look into it too much and be like, oh, well, this means that. I mean, we always think that. We're always speculating, but
right.
Because The Force Awakens wasn't so complex, there were a couple of big question marks.
Absolutely, yes.
That you go into this movie and you're like, none of that seems to matter.
Well, okay, so that's a good point. I think we're still non-spoiler here. We're about to jump into the movie, so stay with us. Yep. But that's a really good point. You have what I would call like a big question mark, several, maybe a couple, a small handful of big question marks coming out of The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah.
But they were there, and they were big question marks.
Yeah.
Coming out of this, you either have one big question mark or you have many, many, many small question marks.
And do you think, like, with The Force Awakens, the question marks didn't really feel like they were taking away from the direction of where it was going?
Right, no. It felt like the questions that it was, raising at the end of The Force Awakens, like who are Rey's parents, who is Snoke, basically what's going to happen with Luke, all that stuff. Those felt like the normal questions we should be asking, and it felt like we were well guided into this movie.
And when we found out who Rey's parents were, it wouldn't change the course of her being a Jedi or whatever.
Right.
And Snoke, like, find out his origins and how is he whatever.
He's still evil. He's still these things.
But leaving this one, I'm like... Also, though, I mean, it does do a good job, though, of setting the table.
It did. It set the table.
But...
And they put things out on the table, and then they took them off.
You're right.
So, or they finished them really quick.
Yes.
Or however you want to put it. But anyway, so let's that's your non-spoiler review, guys.
Yeah.
Now let's jump into what happened in this movie. Let's just talk about the nitty-gritty. Let's get deep and sweaty here.
Let's talk about it.
Oh boy. In the beginning of this film, I think the way, first of all, we all kind of envisioned that it would start on that cliffhanger. We would go right back to Arc 2, and we did not, which is okay. We got a major battle scene in a space battle, which was interesting. And we're just kind of, I don't know how we're going to go about this. I think as Mike and I just bring up things, it'll kind of lead us to the beginning, middle, and end. So we'll be all over the place. Yeah. But, Poe Dameron's comedy, he had good comedy in The Force Awakens, and they wanted to use it again. But boy, you didn't, that was a little cringeworthy.
Here's the thing that I love about Star Wars. I love the comedy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Love it. And there were really good moments in here. But the thing that they do well in Star Wars is the villains aren't comedic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
But in this one, I mean, the opening scene, as I kind of thought it was a parody.
It was a second, and that was a little bit awkward.
It was.
It was a little awkward. So that's where I will kind of look at it and go, like, I get... Here's the thing. The comedy rattled the villain.
Yes.
And the first one, Poe's comedy, did not rattle Kylo Ren.
No.
And so that's sort of the thing. And I get that they used it to stall. He was stalling to charge up his ship so he could just shoot in there and take out those cannons and things and stuff. But, wow, it was just a little weird.
You go from Hux being the person ordering the destruction of the Republic with Starkiller Base and giving some really like emphatic speech of just like, "This is about to stay."
Yeah, right.
But then he's made a fool at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, and it is funny.
It's funny.
But it is, you see why they did it and stuff like that. But it was just like, it was so sudden, happened so quick. It was like right out the gate that we're having this comedic moment. And I'm like, what is happening right now?
It threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were trying to make a statement to say this is going to be a different movie. They did a good job of that.
Throughout the whole thing. But yeah, for sure. Maybe they wanted to come out early and do that, yeah.
Especially for the state of which the resistance is in, as we see. They're fleeing.
Right.
I think they were in much worse of a state than we thought.
Right.
It just took away from it a little bit. I don't know. But
right. Yeah, and so that's just one little critique right out the gate, but it was something we kind of were like, whatever. Yeah. So I'm not pissed about it. I'm not upset about it. It was just a little bit, it's like almost like just misplaced or mistimed. I don't know. So after that, though, we kind of see we see the Resistance fleeing. We see it's a really cool battle scene with Poe, and Poe shows again that he's Force sensitive. In my book, he is absolutely 100% Force sensitive. He does things that other pilots cannot do, and he is a hero through and through.
He really is.
And he's a warrior and he's a fighter, but he's not a leader. Right? That's the theme.
Yeah.
That's the theme, is that Admiral Holdo is a leader.
And he'll learn from that.
And he'll learn from his failures.
Exactly.
Again, the themes, we're going to bring them out early. There they are, learning from your failures. How to be a leader.
Right.
What is our beacons? Who are our beacons of hope? And who's digging their? Mike and I call this digging your heels in, right?
Yeah, you got to.
Each side sort of starts to do this, so we'll kind of take each of those and unfold them as we go here.
And he may, I mean, I don't know how they're going to handle Leia. That's a completely different part of this conversation.
We'll speculate at the end on that because I have a good idea.
But I would have liked to see him be kind of her apprentice, because I think he is going to be that leader that the Resistance needs, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and I think they did, though. Each time that he got put in his place, it was a teachable moment. And then later on, she would say, "But boy, I really like his Leia and Holdo would both kind of, because even Holdo was just sort of like, he's a feisty one, isn't he? He's a fighter, and they liked that about him. Yeah, it was something that they really enjoyed. Yeah, but he's got a lot to learn. It was again those legacy characters. Even though Holdo's kind of, has been around but is new to us. Yeah, passing the torch.
Yes.
So it's crazy to think that Poe Dameron goes from a guy that almost was killed off in The Force Awakens to the leader of, I guess, in the next, he'll be one of the higher ups, commander of some kind, or general perhaps, in the next film. Yeah. So that's cool. So let's, so they're just leaving the planet. They're able to take on, sacrifice. was another big thing in this.
Very big. I mean, you have pilots doing it.
Yeah.
You have, I mean, at the end of the movie, Finn willing to sacrifice himself. I
Yep.
mean, Holdo does willingly,
Exactly.
and even
Exactly.
I don't think any of them but Poe realized that. So yeah, I don't know. You're right. That was a big theme
because from the get go, yeah, it's huge in this, and so. And they teased it right at the beginning when what's her name, Rose's sister, is it Paige? Maybe?
Yes, another one. Yeah,
Yeah, the sacrifice there. It's a little, and what the growing point here, and maybe some of the growing pains for Poe is that he's like, heroes died out there, right? Yeah. And she goes, and Leia was like, yeah, or he said those were heroes or whatever, and Leia says something like dead heroes
and leaders. Did I say leaders too?
Well, she said dead heroes, and then she said there what we lacked out there essentially was leadership.
Leaders, yeah.
And a leader, because he disobeyed her command.
Yes.
And he's like, well, we took down this this dreadnought or whatever, this whatever. But how many lives? We're already a small band, and this is, you need to learn. You need to learn your place. It's, again, we look at some of the books, Aftermath, and some of these other things, as they got into, especially Bloodlines. When you got closer towards them figuring out the First Order, they have, they have X-wing pilots, they have, fighters and things, but they haven't really been in any big battles. They hear about this galactic civil war, and they're ready. They're just so eager to test themselves. They've heard of the legend of Luke Skywalker and everything that Han Solo did, but really, it's like, it's just, it was different. It was much more harsh, and they don't quite understand it. They're ready to get into it. So I don't know. We see some of that, I think, in Poe, but
you're right.
So yeah, the sacrifice though, they've been into bombing this what do I call it? A dreadnought.
Dreadnought. Yep.
Yeah, and they took it down. It was a good victory. There was a lot of, that was a big piece of the First Order that they took down.
Yeah.
So anyways, we move on from there, and then now we got to flash over to Rey and Luke.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And we don't think of the places we go in this movie.
Yes.
We were on Canto Bight, which
right
almost felt irrelevant. But
absolutely,
other than the new, want to call it order, the kids that are going to have to rise up and fight this First Order.
Right.
That was cool.
That was cool.
But I felt like that could have been anywhere. But the Canto Bight thing, I don't know.
The one thing that it just felt weird.
It did feel weird.
It was more about, you got Finn and Rose just felt a little disconnected. I mean, they were still super connected, but it was like, I don't know. It was just a little bit strange. They built a relationship there. One of the things that you see from that whole scene is this idea that it's right after Canto Bight when DJ, what was his name? Do we even know?
I don't think they ever said it.
And I don't even know how DJ relates or tells us anything about who he was going to be. Remember, they said it would be obvious. Someone fill us in the comments, and we just have missed it. We need to go back and watch it again because some of his parts, Benicio del Toro he did a good job.
He did a good job. Yeah.
He had a stutter thing going on, which was interesting. So
he's playing both sides. It just felt like
just a scoundrel.
Yeah.
But what he taught us, and what Finn learns, is that you have these arms dealers who are dealing to both sides. Both sides were profiting off of war.
And he ended up telling him, like, if you stay free, then you're. I don't even remember. That was the point of it. Like, don't pick a side. Just
right.
And I don't know if that affected Finn. I will see. I don't think
that
had a real effect on him or anything.
It was just sort of a behind the curtain. Look at how things are done and how the rich were profiting off of this war, and there's just more to it than good versus evil. Is what they were showing me.
Didn't it kind of feel like they forced that kind of story with? It's almost like they didn't know what to do with Finn in this movie. That's
what I'm saying. That is one of the things I will say is that I feel like Finn's lost, and I'm sad about that.
Yeah,
because Finn was such a player. He goes back and he rescues Rey.
Yeah,
I feel like they just did not give him. They still make him. He's a hero, and that was his thing. Is that he gets these moments where Rose sees him first off, and she's like, "You're a hero."
Yeah,
and he's kind of puts his chest out a little bit, and lifts up his chin. It's a funny moment. But but then, and he's always willing to risk his life and put himself out there and be this hero. Again, the connection with Rey was still there the whole time because he focused. When he wakes up, he's looking for Rey. Mm-hmm. When he's talking to Leia, and Leia has the homing device on her wrist, he's very much interested in making sure once they're under attack that's why he was getting in the escape pod. Yeah. But he couldn't really tell Rose that. You know, he's like, I got to get out of here so that way she doesn't come back here because we're doomed.
Yeah.
Is essentially almost like he needs to save that last hope.
Yeah.
So really, I do see that as an honorable thing that he was doing.
Yeah.
For sure, it's just like it was hard to how do you explain that to Rose? You know,
it was, and then I understand what they were trying to bring to light on Canto Bight. Mm-hmm. They mention there's these planets are being stripped of. Rose
resources.
Says, we get that out of the novels and stuff, but
absolutely,
that's something that I thought was so lost that is a huge deal, and that's going to be a huge reason for systems to join the Resistance,
right?
And we're exposed to it by seeing a few kids running a horse race.
They might have been. Yeah, I get you. You're right.
Visit some of these planets.
Right.
Show us what's happening to these people. I got more out of Thrawn understanding these struggles than this movie. And I how are you going to what are we gonna see that's causing pain to these people that they're gonna want to join this resistance?
I think what they were going for, in The Force Awakens, they destroy how many planets or a whole system. Yeah. Is it Hosnian Prime or something like that?
Hosnian Prime, yeah. That's
and so that they destroy the New Republic. Mm-hmm. And so that's millions and millions and millions, billions. That's billions of people that they killed and destroyed. Yeah. So obviously purely evil. But and then again, it's almost like it goes to this. Maybe we shouldn't have it's a free for all. DJ's kind of telling us, stay out of it. There's going to be a lot of this to come. Yeah. Just picking two sides is maybe not the way to go. And people are really, especially at the end, you can see when no one answered their call. The Resistance gets in a situation where they have to call for aid and help and allies, and basically no one answers their call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they need a new symbol.
They do.
For hope. And so we'll get back to that. But yeah, the Canto Bight thing, I think you could have. I think it's screen time. There's a lot of things to balance. Obviously, we understand all of that. And it was neat that they showed us two things, which was basically the new generation with the kids and kids who were being mistreated. You saw the divide between the rich and the poor. And you saw the basically the wealthy, who are profiting off of the war and the deaths of all those people and oppressing, that lower class. You really had to look for that, though, didn't you? I mean, that wasn't obvious.
We understand that's where they were trying to get, but for being such a huge part of what's going on in the bigger picture, I thought they would have made that a little more apparent, a little more. Yeah, I think they could have done it in a better manner. But I get what they're doing.
It's crazy to think, and we're going to say this a lot. I'm just going to remind everybody right now. It's the longest Star Wars movie we've ever had.
Yeah, that's true.
And you still feel like we wish we'd had more time to do stuff like that. Yeah. So that's the crazy part is that, they did so much, but we wanted more and you needed more. But it's an art. It is an art and it's a skill to get in here and figure out how to show what, when, and what to give appropriate screen time to and things, right?
They did it in Rogue One.
Yeah, in Rogue One they did.
I thought they did a decent job.
But I mean, that particular thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. No, right. But I think they did that in Rogue One. I think they just showing a scene of a labor camp that was really crappy, or what was the city that we were on when the
Jeddah?
Jeddah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Showed its occupation and things like that. I don't know. I thought that was very brief.
The other thing too, you're right. But the other thing too is I don't think the First Order has yet a grip on the galaxy.
Yeah,
right? They're kind of new.
I don't know. They're stripping it of all these minerals. Resources. And you're right. I mean,
well, I like my thing is too. In Rogue One, do you have to tell the story of Luke and Snoke?
Exactly.
And that's the part that's like it's like yes, could they have done that part better? Absolutely.
In a 4-hour movie.
In a 4-hour movie, they could have got her done.
Give it to me.
But it's like if you don't have to tell the story, they had so much story to tell.
True.
And I can't believe the story that they did tell.
Yeah.
That's the real
And it
big
was kinda
story.
everywhere.
It was everywhere. It was so unexpected. The things that happened were absolutely
Yeah.
bonkers, but awesome. You know. Okay, so moving past Canto Bight and what happens there.
I think what I was getting at
Yeah.
before we even got into that was just like, how many places were we in this entire movie?
Oh, okay, yeah.
The space thing, we were just in space the whole time.
Yeah,
just
right.
down this long stretch of space.
Right. We jumped to hyperspace and
Jumped to
we're-
hyperspace, but then they
They
just
catch up
trailing.
right away.
Yeah,
Right.
But we're on Octu, and we're on Canto Bight. We hit up Crate for a few minutes at the end.
And that's it.
That was it.
That is it. So the only new place that they introduced to us really was Canto Bight and Crate.
Yeah.
You know,
I was kind of shocked by that.
I was
thought
shocked
they
by
would
that too.
Expand
Yeah.
the universe a little more than that, but
You're right.
The
It was
tie-in
shocking.
with Crate was kind of cool.
They still had a lot to tell on Octu, though. So
They
they introduced Octu obviously at the end of Force Awakens, but they did have a lot more to tell there, and they actually still has a story to tell, I believe.
Yes, it does.
So that's a good point. And let's go now. We were about to jump into like Rey and Luke. Let's talk. I can't even remember. We didn't talk about their
Haven't
first
even
intro.
mentioned
Okay,
it.
good. Okay, because Mike and I have already talked about for hours on end
We had to
about
stop.
this. We had to stop and then turn the camera on, turn the mics on, get them hot. That was not how we expected it to go. So I love Mark Hamill's trolling everybody when he used
Yeah.
that line. This is not going to go the way you expect it to go. He meant that in so many ways.
So many ways.
And I think he just, God bless him, because he did an amazing job in this with what they told him to do, with the
Yeah.
directions and the script that he was
Agreed.
given. He did an amazing, amazing job. Can't say that enough.
Really agree.
But the lightsaber that Rey hands over is just tossed over the cliff. See ya. Done with it.
Very, very comedic moment.
He doesn't say anything. He just
walks
brushes
away.
past
Yeah.
and moves on, you
Yeah.
know? And it's kind of like, no, we're good.
And we
then
expected him to be something like that, but not tossing his lightsaber over
Yeah.
the cliff.
it was almost so unexpected that we laughed and we weren't supposed to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's how unexpected it was. I was
Yeah.
like, what just happened? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When you go back and watch it later on, you're like, our emotions might be different to say like, oh boy, he's really not happy to see that, and he's just done, you know? So I thought that was interesting. But so then he walks away, and she's like, Luke, Master Skywalker, and she's coming after him and things, and he just goes and shuts himself in his hut,
Yeah.
says nothing
Yeah.
to her. So just go away, you know? So let's talk more about that relationship and just in general how it starts to kind of unfold in a sense. And this is a lot. This was the beginning of the film. We've only seen it once, so it's a lot to go back and recall. But it's disconnected. He doesn't want to teach her. She's trying to convince him, and she is like a believer in this. The Resistance needs you. The galaxy needs you. All these different things, yada, yada, yada. And really what he started to kind of dig and scrape away at is, no, why are you here?
Why'd they send you?
Why did they send you? Why are you here? And it didn't evolve. It then evolves, right? And it got way more personal. It got down to what is it that she's seeking and what is it that she needs. And so it's more Rey's journey. What is she doing here, and how do their paths sort of or how are they interwoven?
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of convincing. I forget what are some of the things that happen right in there. There's a lot that I'm trying to get some of the minor details before we jump right to the big stuff. But
I mean,
he wants to show her three things. Let's just get to
Three
that.
lessons.
3 lessons. And I don't remember how.
first is reaching out. Was that the first?
Yeah. But before we get there, it's sort of like, how does he get to the point where he's like, okay, I'm going to teach you 3 things tomorrow. Come back.
He is climbing up on a hill. She hears voices coming from the forest tree.
That's right. And she goes to the forest tree.
And that's
right.
when he starts being like, you heard that.
How does he know to go there? Or how does she know to go there?
Yeah. So why are you here? That's when it starts.
That's
and
when it
he
starts.
takes interest. But because at first he's catching, and that was also weird. He's catching fish.
I know
he's milking
that one thing,
whatever.
drinking some like
Blue milk.
green milk. It was,
Yeah.
It
that
was
was weird.
really weird. He is a little bit of an oddball, and he basically said, "I came here to die."
He did. That was huge.
That was huge. I mean, he came here to die. Leave me alone. I am not who you think I am.
His
I am
X-wing
not that
was in the
person.
water.
It's in the water.
He let it just. He didn't want to leave.
Yeah. I'm not even so sure that we ever saw. Maybe we did see on his hilt his green lightsaber. I think he may have just disregarded
I never saw
all
it.
of that. Yeah, I didn't see it either. So except for in the flashbacks.
Yes.
But in an important part, I'll say it now. It happens later. Luke has shut himself off from the Force. I mean, he is literally. Well, I think one of the reasons it's hard to sense him is because of that as well.
And he
shuts himself. He has literally closed himself off to the Force, and he's got to where he's at, and he wants to be left alone, and he's done.
didn't sense Han,
Right.
Kylo,
Yeah.
none of that.
Right.
And he had to. I mean, or they would have found him.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Snoke shows that he has that
Snoke's-
ability and that power.
yes,
That's
yes.
absolutely right.
So it was whether he just. I think he thought he was causing more problems.
Yeah, he that he had failed.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
yeah. So the 3 lessons. So once he decides, and they're in the, he shows her the text, and they look at the text, the old Jedi scripts and manuscripts and things, and he starts to kind of take more interest, and he's like, and he says, then the Jedi, it's time for the Jedi to end. And he's like, show up here at dawn tomorrow, and I'll give you your first of 3 lessons as to why that's true.
Yeah.
You know, and the first lesson is basically she's sitting on the stone, and he asks her to reach out. Little funny moment where she reaches out.
He tickled her with like grass.
Right,
It was
I know.
pretty funny.
It's ridiculous. So I can see Mark Hamill having fun with that.
Oh, absolutely.
actually.
I was so okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
It was
Me
good.
too.
It was good.
But as she reaches out, she starts to feel all these different things, and it's cool that they incorporated more emotions and more things that she was feeling, life and death, mentioning both sides.
cool.
Everything sort of had an opposite. And so as she's feeling these different things, life and death, but there's something in between. She kept noticing something in between, hot and cold, light and dark, and that energy that was in between was the Force.
Yeah, it was the
And
balance.
she would
yeah.
call it the Force, and she called it the balance, and things. And then but once she got there, something else too, you know?
Yeah.
That darkness, she started to sense that, and he's like yelling in her face, resist it, Rey, and blah, blah, all these different things. She sees the dark hole, which I will call like basically in episode 5, the cave,
moment, yeah.
the cave moment where, the dark side is calling to her. It knows that she needs something and wants something, and it's offering it to her, and she immediately goes for it.
Yeah.
She does not resist, and he says, and Luke scolds her for that. See, this is why. Right there is why. You can't resist it. There's no.
Yeah.
You went straight for what you needed, and it was a moment for him to kind of, I guess, prove to her that she wasn't ready or something like that. There's also this whole piece, and I don't remember how this came in, whether it was the first trial, the second trial, or whatever, but where the Jedi had failed. Remember that?
I think that was when she was on the rock, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the Rock, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Basically where he says, that the Jedi at the height of their power, she starts to describe the Force and says that it's like it's controlling people. She says controlling people and floating rocks. And that whole piece of control, which we've talked a lot about on this podcast, it is not about control, not about our control necessarily. It's being in harmony and being one with the Force and finding the balance and not using it. And he says, the Jedi at the height of their power could use the Force.
Yeah.
And they failed, and so it's not about that. He tries to show those failures, and wow, I mean, it's like you wonder what it would be like to hear him say that, and then also have Yoda hear him say it too. Well, we basically get that, later on. Yoda Force Ghost, and Yoda essentially agrees with Luke, that they had failed.
Even before the rock scene, I think, doesn't he say a Jedi destroyed, like we're talking about Anakin, they trained someone, a Jedi, that ended up destroying or just bringing, an unbalance to the Force, but she says, and it took a Jedi to bring it back. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
I think they were in the Force tree, but
And that was him. She's referring to him.
Yeah.
And it took a Jedi to
it may
bring
take
him
a
back.
legend to
Yeah, the galaxy may need a legend.
exactly,
because
he refers to himself as a legend, and that
Luke
was
the
half
legend.
problem.
It's almost like it's sarcastic, sort of just like what a legend. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and
but look at where I am now.
Yeah, people
know?
put too much faith in the legend and seem to maybe have lost sight of things. And
Right.
because that's what they were all banking on Luke coming back and fixing things,
and he was not going to.
He's like, "You think I'm just gonna show up with my laser sword?"
Right. I know.
I love he didn't say lightsaber.
I know.
He said laser.
My laser sword.
and save everyone.
Right.
Like that's not how it works.
Right. No, and he was not planning on that. I mean, I think there's a guilt. He feels it's hard confronting Leia. Mm-hmm. He thinks he has failed. He has given up, and he was ashamed of the actions he took.
A lot of shame to where he didn't even tell her the
truth,
whole story.
So let's get to that. I mean, we're beating around the bush a little bit. That second sort of trial, I can't even, guys. It's a little foggy. I'm trying to remember what the 3 lessons were that he taught her, but we'll get to it. I don't know. Maybe it'll come out in discussion here. But at one point, Rey starts to kind of have. All of a sudden, she turns and she senses something. You know, they do this like faraway look. Her and Kylo both, and they go back and forth between them, and they can see each other through the Force.
Crazy.
They have a Force connection, and they're basically talking to one another and engaging with each other. They maybe can't see their surroundings, but they can see each other. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, and they start to kind of almost develop like a relationship in a sense, and understanding one another, and she's asking, why did you kill Han Solo? Why would you do these things? And then he's just asking, about Luke. What did Luke tell you? Has he told you the truth yet? Did he tell you, why the destruction of the temple happened, or did he tell you what happened that night? Mm-hmm. Things like that. So, so what happens is that from the way that the first person that tells it, I think, is Luke. Luke tells it to Rey.
No lightsaber.
Right.
He just had his hand out, seemingly like reading Kylo's thoughts when he was sleeping. Mm-hmm. It's like I sensed it in him, and all of a sudden he's like,
and then he turned on me. Yeah, and he tells Rey that he was that Ben Solo turned on him. He sensed the darkness, and that he must have thought that I was dead, and then he took. He and several other of the apprentices destroyed the rest of the temple and the order. When he came through, he saw that destruction. Well, and then in those Force connections and those talks between Kylo and Rey, he says no. He says he hasn't told you the truth yet. You don't know. You would know. You wouldn't be defending him like this if he had told you the truth. Mm-hmm. And then you come to find out that Luke had ignited he came to kill him. Now, that's what Ben Solo says, that he came in there to kill me. Yeah. And he was going to, he didn't want
to strike him down.
Wanted to strike him down, right? The way Luke, when he says, okay, here's the truth. Yeah. Here it is.
Well, she confronts him.
She confronts him.
And they fight.
Yes, they fight about it. That's right, with stabs, and it was that was pretty cool. Yeah. I love that Luke catches himself with the Force.
He used the Force
when he falls. He's just holding himself there with the Force, which is really cool.
That was cool.
But he explains to her. He says, "Okay, I went in. I had been sensing the darkness in him a long time, and he goes. Now, let me remind folks. This is the Luke Skywalker that when Obi-Wan and Yoda thought that Vader had completely consumed Anakin Skywalker and there was no hope and no way to return, they saw no other way. Luke saw in him the good, right? And he saw the light, and he continued to say and persist, there is good in him, and I can turn him back to the light. That same Luke Skywalker looked at Ben Solo and said, there's no way he's coming back.
There's no way.
There's no way. He is so far gone. It was... and he could foresee that this was going to happen. It was just so clear, the darkness and the twistedness of his heart and the manipulation of Snoke, that it was irreversible, and maybe he wasn't going to turn right then and there, but he was going to turn later on, and it was going to be much worse. Luke had a moment of what's the word I'm looking for?
Shame.
A moment. He was ashamed of what he did, but just a weak moment where he pulls out his lightsaber and ignites it over top of his apprentice, his nephew, and then immediately, I think he deactivates it and doesn't even realize that he's awoken his apprentice, and when he looks back and sees that he realized that he just had that weak moment, the damage is done, and the turn to the dark side is instant.
It was.
Right in that moment, the turn to the dark side is there.
Yeah.
And he may have felt like he had to defend himself or whatever, but Luke. So basically, what Luke had did was it was either he was going to turn in 5 years from now, or he's turning tonight.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, he was trying to prevent what he saw happening, and that was a massacre.
Right. And so, and then that's how the attack happened. Is he force pushes him, takes him out, and there it is. But what it showed me was that we talk about these digging in deep and on each side, is that wow, we have a villain now that is not some conflicted Anakin Skywalker. I'm going to turn to the dark side to save those that I love. No, this was happening for a long time. This is your true baddie that has just gone to the dark side for his own selfish reasons or for whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And he is dark, and it was getting worse and worse and worse, and he wanted more power. And Luke says, I've only seen this raw strength once before. It didn't scare me enough then, but it does now. And so, I mean, he's just realizing back then. It's almost like I almost wonder if Luke's like, maybe I should have finished it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have killed him.
Yeah.
And it's just that how hard is that? I think the hard part for us to accept is that this is we feel like, because we all feel like we're part of the Skywalker family, if you're a fan, to see one of our family members go that dark. And I was telling Mike, right? You look back in Legends and you look back in some of the old Sith Lords. When we hear about Darth Bane, we don't really think to ourselves he's redeemable. Those are the villains. Palpatine, we never thought he was really redeemable. He's a bad guy. He's through and through a bad guy. So it's hard for us to accept that Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, is your through and through bad guy.
Yes.
Now, some of you are going to go right to the argument, is Reylo happening? Is he still redeemable, etc.? And we will talk about that later and speculate.
Yeah.
I mean, because in all fairness, Mike, after what happened in this episode, I cannot tell people that. All right, sorry guys, the memory card just was full there, but as I was saying, it was the dark side. It gets in our equipment sometimes. We will not let Steel Wars.
No, not this time.
No,
Steel.
not this time. We have powers
That's right.
Not even you can imagine.
That's right.
So as I was saying, the idea that Kylo Ren is an unredeemable baddie. I get why people are saying, based off of the Last Jedi, well, look what they did in that. It was they did so many risky things. Why couldn't they do that? So let's give them that. That could happen. But I felt like what they tried to establish in this movie was the digging in, both sides digging in and saying, almost like that we went away. We started to go gray, and then boy, we sure as heck went back to light side, dark side.
They definitely did,
and I think it's great.
And at the end of the movie, you gotta say, then who? If Luke's gonna be redeemed, or like I don't know,
or Ben.
What'd I say, Luke?
Luke, that's okay. Yeah, you're talking about Ben.
Yeah, maybe Luke was redeemed.
Maybe
too.
he was redeemed. Just
But yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I think they really dug in, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm very pleased that we still seem to have a Jedi and a Sith side.
Absolutely.
And this could go on for another trilogy.
Right.
They're really setting it up for Foundations, and I thought they said something kind of about that in the movie where maybe not, but it's going to be Rey and Kylo generating an order on both sides.
And so let's go there since we're already there. Good job. We're talking about Rey at the end of this film and Kylo.
Yeah.
Kylo, we see throughout, basically is the ultimate manipulator. Yes. He has really learned to use the dark side of the Force. And
much like his father.
Much like his father, yes.
He was an ultimate manipulator too.
Except for, I don't really know the true motivation or reason as to why he just went to the dark side. Was he just that corrupted and twisted from a young age, or what happened? Could
have been Snoke too. That's
the thing.
Really
it was
in this
right.
movie.
Exactly. That's when we'll give people that for sure. That the whole Snoke thing is a mystery. But he. I don't know if we've mentioned this yet or not, but we're going to say it right now.
Yeah.
Kylo betrays Snoke. He uses the dark side of the Force to manipulate.
Yeah.
He also manipulates Rey, I believe, multiple times.
Absolutely do too.
He does everything that your Sith apprentice is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I saw that as a real dig in for your Sith character. as much as they like to say in The Force Awakens, there are no Sith, etc., yada yada, sure as heck looks like it. And he's really digging in that way, and it's very consistent with, the characteristics of the Sith Lords.
Absolutely.
Now, Rey, on the other hand, I get past the whole part where she's tempted by the dark side and goes for what she needs. She's desperate. All of them have to face that trial. They all had to go to the cave, their own caves and different things and stuff. And she seems to ever be optimistic and ever want to, fight for what's good and be that new hope in the galaxy.
Yeah.
So you're right. We have two opposite sides, and I think Kylo's got some people. The Knights of Ren were not in this movie.
Yeah.
That is something I wanted to talk about. I will give that it's a knock. I don't know.
Yeah.
They were mentioned and they were discussed by Luke. And what does he say about them, Mike? That they're he took the
took like a dozen or so of the students, right?
Exactly.
And we didn't know that before.
We didn't know that. Nope.
We didn't know they were part of the. So they all are. I would assume would be force sensitive,
right? To some degree, force sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
that group destroyed the other group.
Where are they at?
And killed them. Yeah. So where are those folk? I believe. Well, we'll get to this later. Might as well say it now. Whatever. Is that episode 9 is going to be we're going to have 10 years in between or something.
Have to.
Maybe 5, whatever it may be, because of the age of the actors and things like that. But the idea would be that Kylo creates. And I don't think we're in the rule of 2 anymore. I think we can create multiple Sith Lords, and we're getting back into the old Republic times where we're going to create academies and we're going to go at this.
Yeah.
And the Force is when 2 pop up over here, 2 will pop here, and then when you get to 5 here, we'll get 5 here, and so on each side. So, and it's interesting that Snoke mentions that. He saw that as he would rise Kylo, that he knew the light would send someone as well. Would counter it.
I thought that was awesome.
That was pretty cool.
That was just another. I mean, you have Luke talking about the Force and how it's something that shouldn't and can't be controlled. And Luke, wow, am I tired? Snoke also acknowledging that as well, that he couldn't stop Rey from her rise. He just knew it was going to happen because there's always that balance. It's always trying to balance itself.
Right.
And so, I mean...
Is this interesting? Yeah.
It is, and it's coming from he may not be a Sith, but someone studying the dark side. We'll call him a Sith. I mean, he used Force lightning.
Absolutely did, yeah.
I think he's
absolutely.
a Sith.
He is a Sith, yep.
So, a Sith Lord, presumably, acknowledging that.
It's something. That's
It's
something.
For how insightful he was, I kind of think that's kind of crazy. I mean, it's going to balance itself out. The Force is essentially balancing itself out, having Kylo take him out.
Yes.
I mean, like...
Yes.
But that's just kind of
We're now left with 1 and 1. We're left with Kylo Ren and Rey.
Yeah.
And I think they both will build their academies from there and what have you.
Yes.
But how did we get to that point? So let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Rey just believes that there's good.
Yes.
That she needs to face Snoke. That she needs to... that there's good in Kylo. When they touched, they had this moment where Luke busts in and they're having this I don't know what it's force connection where they're talking and seeing each other, and they're actually able to touch in the Force through the Force. So that's interesting. They're kind of bonding almost there, it seems like. And what ultimately, if Kylo is the master manipulator, and even if he knew Snoke was using his quote unquote conflict, to get what he wanted, I could see him doing that. And that being I mean, right now, the way it was presented is that Snoke saw conflict in Kylo Ren, and he used that conflict to attract Rey, because she would be attracted to that conflict to bring her in, essentially. I wouldn't be surprised if that were Kylo's idea as well, and that he knew that and just let it go on.
Agreed.
Maybe he didn't quite understand how he was able to connect with her, but I'm sure he might have figured that out. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, I could see that too. I think I wouldn't put it past him, but the conflict we see, a genuine conflict in The Force Awakens, I feel like saying that he was like going with it makes it seem like that conflict wasn't genuine, though I think it was.
It was. You're right. So
he may not have been aware.
exactly. So you're right, because that's a really good point. It was. I think he did have genuine conflict in The Force Awakens, and if that's true, then he maybe still does have that conflict going on, because he's being pulled from. He's a Solo. I mean, his family is known as being, the heroes of the rebellion and things like that, except for when he finds out it was his grandfather, being Darth Vader.
Well, Snoke also called him out too. I mean, he says, he kind of says you've redeemed yourself by getting Rey here. You like proved yourself or whatever, but he still talks about his weakness and how he knew we'd get to this, and he's so insightful and
right.
And look at dumb Kylo, he's still the apprentice there, and that kind of pissed him off.
Absolutely, it did, and I think, yes, it did. So I do think I should probably go back and clarify that, because Snoke sets this all up and does use the conflict there. So the conflict inside of Ben Solo is real. That does really attract Rey. Maybe that's why people were going to say later in 9 that there's still a chance. But what you have is a couple conflicting ideas. Luke has now turned into the Obi-Wan and Yoda of the originals, and maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's like he has lost that. Whether it's an idea about youth or just the new hope that Rey represents, that she can still see that, and he's lost sight of that, like Obi-Wan and Yoda did in Anakin and Vader. Maybe that's what he's doing here with Ben Solo, is he's just completely lost sight. There's nothing else that he can do. Also, when it's your apprentice that's turned to the dark side, wow, how much more personal is that? Yeah. Right? I mean, so that was what was going on with Obi-Wan, and that his apprentice had... he says, I failed you, but essentially, he said, Obi-Wan at one point says, well, then you are lost, and it's like this moment where he's given up on him. And so that could be what happened to Luke. That's why Luke truly believes, from a certain point of view, that there is no return for Ben Solo, but Rey is still there.
And I'm making connections with Return of the Jedi too. I mean, if those that think Kylo could be redeemed, you may say, well, it could be, it happened in Jedi. But remember, Kylo is now the supreme leader.
That's right.
He's not.
That's why I don't
Vader.
think it's going to happen.
He's not the apprentice. He's the supreme leader of the First
the
Order.
villain.
Now. He's the villain.
That's right.
The only real villain that we have now. Yeah. There's no Snoke.
There's no redeeming him as well.
I really don't think.
And that's why they set up so hardcore at the end. There was a moment... There was a moment between he and Rey, but and she was still attracted to the idea that there's conflict, there's still a chance for light there, until he said we could rule this galaxy together.
And maybe that was the conflict. It wasn't even like, I want to do good. It's just that
I want you with me. I'm selfish, and I want
that's me having this. I don't want to work with this old fart over here anymore.
I want to be the master. You need a teacher.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need. So it may not even have been. I sense the light. Rey, though, I mean, very distinctly said, "I've seen your future. I've seen you stand up to Snoke or whatever." And I mean, he did, but it wasn't like out of like, I want to do right by the galaxy. I want to rule it. So I
so maybe she had saw just to that point.
Yeah.
And then did not see beyond. It's after he stands up to Snoke. And she misunderstands it. She's very new in the Force, doesn't understand the Sith way, right? And that he's standing up to Snoke because it's his time to strike down his master. It's what they do. And he's going to take over.
But how insightful, though, on her part, because Yoda tells us always in motion the future is.
Right.
It could change. It's never certain what we're seeing. She's like, I know this. She says that.
That's true. The other thing I think, though, is just because she says she knows it, what all did she see?
Yeah, what did she? Yeah, right.
Maybe she saw it going a different way and him coming back to her. She doesn't quite say that.
Yeah.
She just gets as far as the Snoke piece. But yeah, so once that moment of the reaching out of the hands, and it's like she starts to kind of reach for him, and then he still reveals subtly, she can sense that, no, he's not changed, and he truly is gone. Or not. Maybe she realized that, and I don't know. Yeah. But what happens is, after that moment, bam, they go here, and Rian Johnson and the rest of that team decided from that moment on, they put Kylo Ren in the category of, he is our villain. Yeah. There is no getting him back. Absolutely. We have to defeat him. Yeah. Okay? And they make that very clear, because Luke, when he shows up, he says, I'm not here to save him.
I'm not here to save. He tells Leia that I'm not here to save him.
I'm not here to save him.
That
was one of the best lines. I could not. I was like, oh my gosh.
She says, "I know."
I know.
She recognizes it as well. I had hope, but I
mean,
know
after he
now
kills
that,
Han,
yeah.
you know, and things, it's just sort of like, wow, you know, they build you up for that. That's what they've shown us over 2 movies.
Yeah.
They keep saying, oh, there's this chance for light and stuff, and we're going back to the originals thinking, oh yeah, that's what they did. Mm-hmm. Luke was able to see the light in Vader, blah, blah, blah. They're giving us the other side. Mm-hmm. They believe that they can get him back. Mm-hmm. And maybe you know, I mean, anything's possible, right? Maybe it is one of the many possibilities or the many futures that, you know, Yoda and Luke and Rey and people can see, right? Mm-hmm. But it's such a small chance. Everything would have to go exactly right to get him back. He's just so far gone that there really is almost C-3PO needs to give us the odds there on how likely it is to get him back. And I bet you they're ridiculous, 1,000,000 to 1.
And I think let's just talk about C-3PO for a second, okay?
Okay, yeah.
I think he may be more insightful than we all realize because when Luke shows up on Crate, in his the appearance that it's him, his image of himself or whatever, Luke winks at him.
He does.
It's almost like they had a moment and C-3PO was like,
"What did that mean?
That's not Luke."
That's what.
Yeah. Or is C-3PO Snoke?
Or is something else going on?
I don't know. But there was a wink. Some acknowledgement of like,
what did that mean?
That's not Luke.
The last time I saw Luke do something like that, he went like, you know, he gave a little salute.
There was a plan
to R2. He gave a little salute to him on Jabba's, you know, barge.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now that we've got those 2 characters, polar opposites there, that's when it makes sense. You know, they're both now fighting on 2 different sides. So Rey goes back to fighting with the Resistance, trying to help them. On Crate, and but before we get to Crate, a couple things that we missed. We're all over the place, folks.
Yeah.
But something really cool, going back to the leadership themes and talking about Poe and these different things that are happening. We forgot to mention how Leia, basically, because we were talking about Luke and Rey so much, we need to go back to that other side.
Yes.
Leia, Kylo pulls off the trigger to kill and shoot down his mother. And the other 2 TIE fighters early on in this space battle that happened right after they jumped to light speed, and they tracked him through light speed.
Yep.
He pulls the trigger, does not shoot to kill and destroy his mother. The other 2 TIE fighters do, and she's sucked out into space.
Yeah.
Leia's sucked out into space, and I immediately thought to myself, I was like, well, wait a second. We see her on Crate. What the heck?
Yeah.
You know, who's going to save her?
Strange.
She saves herself.
She does.
She looks like she dies. I mean, it looks like she dies there,
that
and
was the
everything.
Force.
Yes, at the Force.
So what was the Force saying there? Like we,
not your time. It's not yet.
And that's it. Here's the thing. Ez.
Yeah.
They finished this movie, all the filming of it, at least in the story, before Carrie Fisher's passing.
Right.
I mean, Kylo Ben killed his father. He's wanting to kill Luke Skywalker. Doesn't pull the trigger on his
mom. Yep.
I think Episode 9 was going to be set up for a very emotional moment with Leia and Kylo, and there could have been redemption in 9.
Maybe. Yeah. Or was that another tease that they're going with?
It could have been, but then that may make sense as to why the Force said, "You're not finished yet. You're the only one that can get through to him to bring balance or to bring." I don't know, to
counter.
Him,
yeah.
To counter. Yeah. So I think that could have been the story leading into 9, but now I think he's too far gone.
Right. Exactly. And also, you know, it just, I don't know, it was nice that they gave Leia that moment. People were going to say it was awkward the way it was done and how she Force pulls herself back into the ship. I think it's actually makes a reference to like the Force Unleashed where Vader's apprentice was actually sucked out and then like is able, either that's a clone that comes back or he helps him, or he's able to Force pull himself back in. I can't remember. But anyways, somehow survives being out in the space. So she's back. She's still that beacon of hope or whatever. But then we get to the point where when she is also just demoted Poe down from like commander to captain, and there's someone there talking, I don't know who that person is, who's talking about who is next in the line in the chain of command. It's like Leia is down and she's in a coma essentially, and Vice Admiral Holdo, yeah, which you read about in the book a little bit and learned more about their relationship. What did you think when that was going on? Did anything in the book tell you that Admiral Holdo would be who she ended up being?
Yeah, when we were watching the movie, you thought maybe she was playing them
right
for a bit. If you had read, and you will,
I will.
Leia, Princess of Alderaan, you find that Holdo is, I don't know, when I was reading the book, I pictured her as like the character Luna from Harry Potter.
Okay.
She's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And you pick up a little bit on it.
Right.
Not even, maybe not, I don't know, but
in the movie?
There's something a little different.
Yeah, she's
there.
just a little odd.
She's a little there for
yeah.
being in command, and but you find out that she really helps Leia in a desperate time of need and becomes a really dear friend to her.
Right.
And they go through a big episode together, and so I knew there was more to it than that, and so the leadership lesson came a little quicker to me than I think.
Right.
But I could definitely see where they were, like, where you would think she might be playing them here. Which
Absolutely.
could have been kind of cool.
Absolutely, because the way they had done it too, with going back and forth between Canto Bight, they had just showed Finn and Rose, and they had just showed that some of those people at Canto Bight were also selling arms to the Resistance. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. It's like, here we go.
Yep.
I was like, it turns out that Holdo is working for the First Order, is somehow in allegiance with them, or whatever, or has made a bargain. And that's not true.
Yeah.
And it's great because there's this whole thing, this whole subplot where Poe goes in and basically takes command. He pulls guns. He gets his people together.
That's crazy.
And yeah, they don't agree with what Holdo's doing. But the problem, I don't know. And again, maybe it's not like they just thought they were in more of a leadership position. You know, you had Billy Lord's character, who I don't know what the name of her character is in the movie, but those folk. I think Snaps is there, and different people are with Poe, and they think they should be told what the plan is. They don't know what the plan is, and why didn't she tell them the plan? I don't know why she didn't.
Because she learned from Leia.
Yeah.
Remember what was the expression? Just because you can't. What was it about the sun? And what was that?
I don't remember.
What was that expression? It's like, just because you don't see the light doesn't mean you don't believe the sun exists. There was some phrase there. Do you remember that lesson that she taught him? Leia, what would Leia want?
Almost like, when the sun sets, just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean that you stop believing that it's there.
Exactly. There
Something
was
like
some
that.
frame of like,
I can't remember exactly.
Oh, I have to trust that there is a plan and that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a lesson there.
Yeah.
Just don't remember exactly.
They worded it much better, and it was good. I remember it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Holdo ends up. There was just that they didn't understand, and they had not yet revealed their plan. So she's actually trying to secretly and discreetly keep the ship running away from Snoke's vessel and the other Star Destroyers. And as they're running away, they're running out of fuel, and so that's the whole thing. Is that we missed that kind of part where Finn and Rose have to go get someone who can. Every time they jumped in light speed, the lead ship was able to track them and was able to follow them within 30 seconds or to a couple minutes. When they jumped to light speed, boom, they could jump right behind them, just keep jumping. Yep. And eventually the Resistance would run out of fuel. So they tried to just use all full thrusters and outrun them. Yeah. And as they're doing that, Poe's just like, this is a joke. He's like, we're just going to keep going, and then you have no plan, and we're going to die out here, and you're not telling us what you're doing. And then he thought they were just abandoning ship, but really they had sort of cloaked those escape vessels, and they were going to an old rebel base, Crate. So that was kind of cool. Yep. You learn that Holdo is, good person, and then Poe learns another lesson again about leadership and things and how things are done,
sacrifice,
all those different things. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So cool. That was a good part, and she has to, her sacrifice there then is, as they're leaving, eventually DJ and Finn and Rose are now back on that on Snoke's ship, and they're trying to disable that tracking device so that way they cannot track the command ship for the Resistance. Well, while they're there, DJ basically betrays everybody, and he's like, by the way, they're slipping off little ships over here to try to get to this planet Crate. And they're like, wow, thank you very much. Let's shoot those down. They start to shoot them down. Holdo says, turning this bad boy around,
Going to light speed.
Going to light speed, and I'm going right through them.
And he immediately thinks she's bailing.
Well, not Poe.
But Poe's the only
girl.
one. Yeah,
the girl, some girl does, I think. Yeah.
She's bailing.
Poe's learned at that point, like, oh no, she's turning the ship around,
That's right.
and something's going to happen here. And that is one of the coolest. Everyone in the theater was shocked when she just boom goes right light speed, sacrifices herself in the ship to just split that ship in half because she's no longer running cover for them. They're exposed, and she has to do something.
That's right.
That was super cool. And then. At that point, there's chaos on the ship. That's how Finn and Rose are able to get away, and Phasma's killed. Captain Phasma. That's a big critique of everybody. Like, what's the point of Phasma? She's promoted
hardly in the
all
movie
the time,
again.
hardly in the movie, and then is just dead. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a
explain how she came back. They never. I felt like we were kind of led to believe that she was going to be a bigger,
bigger role, and just wasn't.
Negative.
So, yeah. Oh well. So. Yeah, okay, so Snoke's ship is split in half. We talked about how Kylo basically kills Snoke.
Yeah, and how...
We really talked about the lightsaber move that he uses, though. That was really cool.
It was cool.
Because, Snoke is reading his mind, and as he's reading his mind, he's like, this is what he's going to do. He's going to walk over to Rey. He goes, I've put Rey down, so... she's like, basically, prove yourself master of evil, or what does he say?
Darkness, or something
darkness, son of darkness.
Yeah.
Wanting her to strike her down. He's twisting the lightsaber. Yeah. And in his other left hand, he's actually moving with the Force. The lightsaber that's placed right next to Snoke in his armrest, and he's turning it to where it's facing in at Snoke's side, and then he's about to ignite the lightsaber and drive it through Rey, and that's all the things that he's thinking, but he's thinking about Snoke.
Yeah.
So he's able to cloak what he's doing while Snoke is reading his mind. That was pretty good.
Pretty intense.
Pretty intense. It was sort of more of a sleight of hand, trick than it was like a big Force ability, but still ignites the lightsaber, and then once it's in Snoke, he then Force pulls it to himself and cuts him clean in half.
He does.
Darth Mauled him.
He did Darth Maul him, yeah. And Darth Maul came back.
Darth Maul came back. I was just about to say Snoke lives on.
There was a moment there I thought Snoke's body was going to
come back together. Yeah, I know.
He was going to be laughing.
I know.
How you thought that was going to do it?
Right.
Sorry, I came back from the dead because I'm Darth Plagueis.
Well, I had read all these different theories where I kind of thought, wait a second, was he like a holocron? Was he the puppet? Was he the... Is there someone behind Snoke that's pulling all this strings? And no, it's not. It was all just to build up Kylo and to make him the true villain,
Which is cool. I just wanted it to happen later. I wanted more about Snoke. He was so BA in the beginning of that movie.
Right.
He was witty. He was... his powers were insane. We saw Force lightning. We saw him pull down Hux via a hologram. It was insane how powerful he was. And I mean, the master's always betrayed by his apprentice. I didn't get enough Snoke.
Right, I know.
I wanted some other awesome villain. Kill him at the end of the movie.
Yeah, where did he come from? What's the whole deal with him, etc.? How did he manipulate Ben? And they basically just told us that's not the focus. You guys are missing. The focus now is, and that was crazy. That was what everyone was focused on, right?
I'm gonna call it getting Phantom Menace. I'm sorry.
Getting Phantom Menace.
That's what people were peed about with Episode 1. They showed Darth Maul, and oh my God, it's awesome.
Right.
And he's gone.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of a similar thing.
It is, and he just plays that. That's the role that he plays. He helped to create the First Order. He's basically just... Yeah, he's this other dark side guy who pulls Kylo or Ben to the dark side, and that's his only function and purpose. And I think Ben might have been more susceptible to the dark side regardless of Snoke. It seems like in his nature it was just more that he would be tempted by it, but then Snoke sees that and is going to latch onto it and really basically took him out from underneath the Luke, and that's where Luke sees his failures.
And we may get more about Snoke in a book or something.
Yeah,
like
we
I
might.
think we should.
Yeah, we should. One thing I'll say too, I keep talking, and if you're listening on Podbean, I'm doing hand motions here, but I've got Kylo over here on my left, and then I've got Rey on my right, and I sort of see, they've, like we said, they've dug themselves in, they've gone to different sides of the battlefield. And they're both also very young, I feel like. Even though Ben Solo has been trained, maybe a lot more in things, it still felt like he didn't know as much as Snoke knew.
Yeah.
Felt like Snoke was the more of the master.
Yeah.
Right? And Luke is there as well. So I don't know who's going to be guiding. It makes sense that Luke will come back and Rey will need a little bit more guidance and still playing catch up to Ben. Ben will definitely know more because he was taught under Luke and Snoke and had access to more things.
Yeah.
Than maybe Rey did. But
think of this too. When Snoke is talking to Kylo about being a failure or whatever, he's like, I always thought you were going to be the next Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Both of them seem oblivious to the fact that Vader was redeemed.
Right, exactly.
Right?
I know. Yeah, that's a good
I thought
point.
more people were aware of this.
I know. No, I know.
Apparently not.
Nope. Well, I mean, yeah, because again, him turning back to the light side, I wouldn't be surprised if Snoke didn't know.
Yeah.
Because that was basically between Palpatine and Luke.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know that Luke was going around telling everybody that what happened to Darth Vader. Don't know that it mattered anymore.
You're right, though.
They believed Anakin died in the Clone Wars.
That's true. I want to know, like you said, who will be counseling him? Do the Sith, is that something that they
I think
do?
holocrons. I also just think...
Or do they care after that? They don't want to hear
from
their dead master.
I think he'll find his own way, yeah.
They betray them.
Think about the rule of two for years and how once you killed your master, you had learned everything that you could, maybe, and then it was time to move on. I don't think he learned everything he could from Snoke, or maybe he knew enough already, or he had just whatever. But he still has more to learn, but definitely needs to grow in power.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
so I hope that happens. And whether it's grow and power himself or surrounding himself with more students and pupils and things, and we go away from a rule of two to the idea of a Sith Academy and a Jedi Academy, like we had back in the day.
Is the dark side more powerful?
No.
But maybe it is.
Maybe it is.
Maybe he doesn't need a teacher.
Another thing I want to mention about Kylo, and I'd hinted at Legends, but you go back to Jaina and Jason Solo and Legends books, and the twins, right? Gosh, I can never pronounce Jason's. Oh gosh, his Sith name, Darth. Cadius, whatever it is, CA or CE, CAE, whatever DUS, something like that. He turns to the dark side, right? Starts off, they have a younger brother, Anakin, Solo as well, and it's like this whole piece is about how he was trained under Luke. He was a good Jedi Knight. He believed in peace, and it wasn't until the Yuuzhan Vong War, and he was tortured that starts to really change him, and he goes so dark as to kill Mara Jade, try to turn Ben Skywalker against his father, Luke Skywalker, and actually wants to attack Luke Skywalker and bring down the Jedi Order, that his sister has to kill him. There is no redemption. She has to go kill him.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where we're at right now. We're at a point where those two characters, again, are on those opposite sides.
Agreed.
So, anyways, all right. So we've got everybody down on Crate now, and we're gearing up for that battle. We've had the awesome fight. After Snoke is killed, we have this awesome fight. This is before Holdo shoots into Snoke's ship, but this fight with the Praetorian
Guard?
Praetorian Guard. So Snoke's guard, and they fight together, and they take them all out. It's a pretty cool lightsaber battle. It's up there. It'll be on my top lightsaber battles.
Wasn't long enough in my opinion.
No, it wasn't, but it was cool. So then they have their moment we talked about where they try this bonding thing that doesn't happen, and they're pulling on that lightsaber.
It just kind of explodes.
Yes, it does.
It in pieces at the end, doesn't she?
She does. She has it in pieces. You can see the blue kyber crystal in there. So awesome. That was so cool.
Build her own.
She's gonna have to build her own. There's a journey there. and things. It is so cool. So waiting for that real quick reference because I just remembered it. There's like a red kyber crystal in Luke's. I think when we'll watch it tomorrow. I think I saw like something hanging on a chain in his when they go into his place.
What?
Yeah, did you see that?
You think he bled a crystal?
No, I don't know. I just saw that. It could have. I don't know. Maybe I have no idea. But interesting fact that I thought I saw.
But that fight that you're talking about, that was. These two are powerful.
They are powerful. That's right.
I mean, do you think? Oh goodness! So we're talking about Rey being the counter to the darkness that's risen. Kylo could have very well been that counter to Luke Skywalker.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Luke starts an order.
Snoke too, you know.
Snoke is around as well.
Right, that counter to Luke.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
both,
I don't know.
But
so
both.
They're powerful.
They are powerful.
Even the scene, the throwback with Luke getting ready to strike him down, Kylo brings the whole building down on him.
Yeah, he does.
Like, that's powerful stuff we haven't seen in a long time.
Exactly. And Ben is doing things like freezing people and the mind probing. There's a lot more like telekinesis like powers and abilities, right? I mean, or like mental powers or whatever, projection and seeing each other and communicating through the Force and things. So yeah, for sure. That's really cool. Now, my favorite part. Right? My favorite part of this whole movie, and I said this in our predictions, the one thing that I needed to see, that I wanted to have, I really wanted to see him be more of a master to Rey, but he was the legend of old come again.
The legend they needed.
He was. And he came back. Luke decides, I think he was watching the whole time, just like Snoke was watching and things like that. Luke and Snoke seem to have that. Both of those masters, right, have this Force ability to really see across the galaxy into. Once he taps back into the Force, he knows how to do those things. So I think he was watching that whole fight with Snoke, and I think he would have intervened if it was going the wrong way.
Agreed.
Actually, so, but he saw a way to get there in time to help the Resistance, and he shows up. And he has a conversation with Leia, a good moment with Leia where he gives her a kiss on the forehead, talks to her. We talked about the wink, all the different things. He did so many different gestures that were just so confident. He just showed this confidence, and he showed this swagger almost that he had back in the day. And it inspired people. Yeah, it was cleaned up.
His beard was darker. His
he
hair
looked
was
good.
Darker.
Yes,
he looked like in Episode 6. Luke Skywalker to me.
Yeah, he just looked a little leaner. He looked everything looked good, right? And I was like, wow, he is ready to do battle here.
Yeah.
And
just walks out alone.
Yeah, walks out alone and goes up and before this there was a battle on Crate and things that happened and stuff that we'll get to. Finn sacrifices himself and Rose saves the day. It's awesome, and we need to talk more about it. But
felt forced, but that's okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, yeah, but like we're So the best part, Luke comes in, we've said this, he has this moment where he's like, I'm not here to save him.
He tells Leia, I'm not here to save him. And
right.
She knows.
She knows.
She acknowledges it.
And he gets out there, can't even remember all the awesome quotes that took place, but like he comes walking by and people are turning, that's Luke. It's like, oh my God, there he is. It's like the whispers start again. It's like this legend is back and we're saved and here he is, right?
Yeah.
And this is the big passing of the torch because at the end of this, it's Rey, clear as day that she needs to become that legend to the Ged. Yeah, she is. Yes, essentially, right? Yeah, she's.
I think so.
She is. She's the Jedi that's trained. That's right. So Luke decides they've blown a hole into this big door that's basically keeping everyone safe, and the First Order will be there. They all find an exit through the back door. They didn't think there was a way to get out. They follow the crystal foxes, and they're able to figure out a way out the back. So there's just the Resistance is shrinking. And Luke goes out, and he knows that Kylo is there, and he just walks out. Literally, if you've seen you've seen it. He walks out, and he's just completely exposed to all of these different walkers, and ships and things, and Kylo is so angry, so mad, and he's just like, open fire. He's like, give me everything you got. We did a little Star Trek quote. Fire everything.
Sick.
But he was so angry, and he just unleashes that anger, and you can see, like, he's more upset. Like Snoke, it's like whatever. But boy, is he mad at Luke.
Yeah.
Boy, is he upset with his family
You
and
were
things.
strike
And
me down.
that's where things are at. Yeah. Right. So they fire everything at Luke, and it's just this big dust cloud and stuff. And then Hux like calls it off. Doesn't touch Luke.
Out, kind of, he just brushed.
Oh, he
his
like just a
shoulder
little
off.
brush of the shoulder. Yeah,
That was hysterical.
that was funny. Just got this confidence or whatever, and then and he knew he would come down and face him.
Absolutely.
And so Ben Solo or I'm sorry, Kylo Ren comes down and says, park this bad boy. Let me go meet Uncle Luke on the battlefield.
On the battlefield, and I think you mentioned everyone running to the back of the base or whatever, but they realize Luke's trying to buy time.
Yeah, Poe does. Yes.
Yeah, he realized it, and you just see Luke's making the sacrifice for us to be. They kept repeating it. The spark that lights the fire.
The fire. That's right.
So they may be small, but he's making that sacrifice so we can do that.
Right. They had to get out, and so they start looking for a way out, and
Exactly.
they find it, and he's out there, and I mean, it is such a confrontation. The lightsabers come on. He ignites the blue, which was interesting.
Surprising.
Very surprising. Can I tell you why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did maybe Ben didn't know, or I'm sorry, Kylo didn't know, but that lightsaber was torn in half. Just before, because he gets knocked out by the blast.
Great call.
And Rey
must
takes
not
off.
know.
Ray scoops up the two pieces and goes. So maybe he doesn't know, right? But it's like, dear God, it's like Luke has that blue lightsaber.
Yeah.
How does he not realize? He's just so
Interesting choice.
right.
By
I
the
thought for
creators,
sure they would
producers.
have the
Yeah.
green.
I did too.
Why the blue?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense to me. It really does not. I don't understand why they didn't just have
Poor
the green
choice.
lightsaber. Yeah, that was a poor choice. So, anyways, the fight though was epic, and I mean when they never touch lightsabers, right? We have to go back and confirm that, but I'm pretty sure they never
I would
touch.
assume not, because when he slices him in half, so he thinks. I mean,
Right.
because there's one point where Luke he does the whole Matrix slide
Right,
thing, and
right.
it just goes right past him. I think you're right. They
Right.
never touch.
He just avoids him and he frustrates him and he basically calls him out and like Kylo does this whole speech where he's like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill the First Order, I'm gonna do the Resistance and Rey, and I'm gonna take the Jedi will be no more.
Yeah.
And what's he say?
He just says everything you just said was wrong.
Yeah. And it's like, whoa. I mean, he has this like he's basically looking at him almost in a taunting sort of like, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done here. And he's doing it simply to just keep him there and to keep everyone at bay while they get out. Because Chewie and Rey are flying around and they had just taken the TIE fighters away from the battle to give the ground forces some more time. And so they actually ended up finding the Silver Foxes and they're waiting for the people to get out the back of the cave to get the Resistance out. So,
Boy, does he have an Obi-Wan moment.
yeah.
Says, if you strike me down,
Right.
he doesn't say I shall become more powerful
Right.
than you ever imagined or whatever. He just says, I'll just be around you all the time,
Yeah, like your father.
like your father.
If you strike me down in anger, basically I'll haunt you essentially.
pretty much.
Yeah. And that doesn't stop him. He still runs, and this is when he runs at him. He just tries to like swipe through him. I was like, oh. Luke just put down his guard, and it looked like he was going to give himself up there, and lets him swipe through him. And you're like, oh, there he goes. He's going to become one with the Force. Nope, he doesn't.
Not so fast.
And then honestly, like Luke almost has like a grin or this look on his face that's just sort of like, gotcha.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he sticks the lightsaber through Luke and realizes he's not actually there.
Yeah.
And then you flash over, and then he sort of like disappears. Like the Luke that's there in front of him disappears. I think
I can't remember.
I can't even remember. There was just so much.
Because
But what I
the shot
remember,
then goes to Luke.
because we don't understand what's happening. We're
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, we see Master Luke, closed eye meditation, and we're like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, there he is! Like he's meditating on the rock, and he's projected himself there.
He's levitating.
He's levitating, and he is toying with Ben's with Kylo Ren, and he is literally just. I mean, it was so epic from across the galaxy.
Yeah.
he is there, and it's just having these moments. It's just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But he used so much of the Force, and it was I don't know. He became one with the Force. It was either his time. He collapsed on the rock. He looks back up and he sees the sunset and the different things. He's even able to pull himself back up onto the rocks. I really just think he actually it was just time. I don't know that it was
exactly what he said he was going to do.
Exactly. I don't know that it was anything about whether if he wanted to live on, or the Force wanted to. Maybe he wasn't. He was so drained. I get that. I don't think it killed him. It was just time. It was his time had come, and he had done his part, and now he had to become one with the Force.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's really more what it was.
That was a touching moment seeing the twin sons.
Man, so good. It was so good.
And
that's what saved the movie, and not saved, but like really made it. Took it from an 8 to a 9 out of 10 for me.
That was something we knew we wanted. I mean, not the particulars of him creating some image of himself.
We was wanted that badass moment.
We did. We wanted a confrontation, a Luke confrontation. We got it, and we're exposed to powers we've never seen before.
Exactly.
That was something when Yoda presented himself.
That's right.
He summoned the lightning to set the tree on fire. These are things we've never seen before. Makes me even more excited if we are going to see Luke
as a Force Ghost
9, which I think.
Absolutely, we will.
Now I feel like more than ever we will.
Absolutely.
What's he going to be able to do? Is he going to intervene? Is he going to talk to? It's just
he is there to help Rey, and he is going to guide her and teach her and be what she needs. Obi-Wan did the same thing. Obi-Wan, would say to Luke, "Let go, use the Force." He would guide. He was still guiding him along the way. That's fine. The Force has been her teacher up to the point where she meets Luke.
Yeah.
Luke then teaches her for a little while, and then he becomes her teacher as a Force Ghost. I think nothing's wrong with that. I would have liked to seen the physical Luke continue teaching her.
Yes.
My personal preference in 9, but the way I think they're going to do this now is we're going to flash forward several years, and the training will have been going on for a while.
And maybe the Luke Skywalker that Mark Hamill thought he was going to get in this movie. We may see that.
That's
more
true.
Traditional kind of.
That's true. We may see more of that. Not as much screen time, but we'll see. Probably 2 good moments of Force Ghost with him.
Because let's be honest, we talked about them digging in, and now we're going to have these 2 sides that seem pretty.
And she took the text.
Solid. She took the text, but we may see that more traditional master apprentice teaching kind of what we're kind of used to. So,
right.
I don't know. But she did take the text.
What's interesting about the text is that Yoda said, burn it down. He basically, you thought Yoda was going to stop Luke from burning down the old Force tree and the textbooks. But Yoda was like, no, let me help you out. Boom.
Do you think it's because he knew they were gone?
Maybe.
And he was trying to
just help push Luke along. Mm-hmm. And not, it was just, that was what needed to be done.
Perhaps. Because Luke's like, oh, burn it down. But then he's like, wait a second. No, there's all this knowledge and stuff. And he realized they were important. Yeah,
was he going to burn it down, or was he going to get the books out first, or what? What was Luke going to do?
You would think he would get them out first and then burn it down. But he torched that thing.
I think
and then
he wanted to torch everything. And then, it was in hindsight, But because I think Yoda says Rey knows everything that she needs to know, or has all. You remember that part where he kind of says that Rey.
They're not page turner.
It's basically it's not a page turner.
Yeah.
And that the Force is what's guiding Rey, and Rey needs to rely on the Force. It will be her best teacher, not these books, but she'll find some interesting stuff in those texts.
Absolutely.
So
maybe the Obi-Wan Chronicle.
Maybe the journal. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Or the book of the Wills.
Wills. Yeah, he doesn't call them.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't refer.
No,
to
he just says the sacred text.
Yeah,
he doesn't tell us much.
He even
about
refers to the Jedi religion.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're making all these phrases. They're using all the phrases for laser swords.
Yeah.
Jedi religion. It's. I don't know. It was interesting.
It was
definitely
cool.
Tied it in.
Well, and that's the thing. Is I read a review somewhere where they said they're paying homage, but it's not repetitive.
Yeah.
So they did do a lot of that in this movie, but it didn't seem like it was repetitive.
Yeah.
You had to look for it. It was complex in how they did it. So that was good.
Definitely.
Wow. We could keep going.
I'm sure we could.
And we missed some things for sure, but it's
yeah, we absolutely did.
There's just so much, And I think the big things that I was taking away from this movie, let's just talk big picture, was, I guess, the subjects. I don't know if you call them themes, subjects, whatever you want to call them. They're kind of, I use them interchangeably, which I shouldn't. But, leadership, sacrifice, hope, the new symbols of hope. What else do we have? Some of those bigger things we've talked about.
No, I think those are.
I
think those are it.
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of the big overarching themes that were going on.
And so you had those. You almost had like with the hope and the symbolizing of like the new factions or whatever. That passing of the torch, like we saw the kid who pulls the broomstick to him with the Force, and then is almost holding it like it's a sword, and they were just playing with the Luke Skywalker doll and things like that. That was just real. I don't know. That was neat, right? I mean, it was just real good.
Can I be honest? I expected all of that to happen in 9.
Oh, really?
I expected there to be more. That's what I thought. We'd have more Snoke, and Snoke wouldn't even die in this one.
Right.
And then we would be setting up a new order, and like the youth will be those that see the New Republic and the New Order, and then we'd have a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
I had it all planned out. That's why everything was so shocking.
That's right.
A 10-year gap, and then you can have an older Rey,
right,
and older Poe that are the mentors at that point.
Right.
This, and because of that, and because it didn't go that way, it now kind of makes me think that maybe after 9, that's it.
Sure, I think so.
With this story,
as far as we know, it would be one of those things where they put a cap on it and it's done until further notice, which might be 30 years later.
It might not,
and it might never be again. It might just be the end of the saga. Now, one thing we didn't talk about that I think we should. We talked about this at the theater when we were talking with Beth and we were talking with Andy and Kent and Erica. We talked about how it's a Skywalker story.
It is.
It's a story about family. And what's throwing people here is Rey goes to see who her parents are. Kylo tells her they're no one. They were junkies. They were junk dealers and things like that. They were no one. Mm-hmm. They left you. They sold you off. They made some money off of you and they left, and things like that.
Whether that was true or not,
was he manipulating her just to sort of like? But he was like, he's basically, what was he saying? Kill the past, right? Join me.
Yeah.
He didn't want her to dig into her past. I think if she digs into her past, she might find something pretty darn interesting.
Yeah.
And things more worth fighting for.
Good.
He doesn't want to. He feels like it's almost like that kid who's grown up in privilege or whatever and is sort of like rebelling. I gotta get out of this.
Yeah.
I'm sick of this. Family thing. So that was interesting to me. Is how do you go? How does the Skywalker 1 through 9, what George Lucas had sort of envisioned, end? Does it end with the Skywalkers on the dark side and they're being killed by no one, by a girl who is just no one, quote unquote no one, and she's the new symbol of hope or something?
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's just a little different, a little backwards from what you thought it would end.
Yeah, but then again, the Skywalkers are always the ones
walking between the light and the dark. Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, I don't know if it ended that way. I don't know.
You
kind of wanted to,
but it's weird. We say Skywalker story, but George intended it to be a story about Anakin Skywalker.
You're exactly right.
And so that story ends in 6. So it's like, what was he envisioning for 7, 8, and 9? I think that's why he really never wanted to go there. I don't know. So,
I agree.
But it'll be interesting to kind of, are they moving us away from that, and are they moving us more into this idea that because the fact that Rey is no one and doesn't really belong to anyone significant is great. Sort of like this rags to riches or rags to power or whatever it may be, or rags to hero, I should say, story that is awesome and people can connect with, and it's good. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing to have. So I think that's really neat, and I think I like that.
It feels like, though, there's something there, though.
Yeah, it does. I think there is. There's something. I think there's something. For sure. So we'll have to see where that goes and what the connection is. But there's no way. I mean, she's not Luke's daughter. She is not Leia and Han's daughter. It would have been stated by now. There's just no way.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
She's a
no way.
clone. She could be a clone.
That's why she saw herself.
That's why she saw herself. You know what I mean? Yeah, or she was born of the Force. Because there is something into what did they say? They made a reference that she was Anakin Skywalker come again. Or was that were they talking about Kylo when they said that? I thought they said something about Anakin Skywalker come again, and I thought, oh, are they saying like born again, like as in like this, like he's either reincarnated or he, because you've heard that theory, right?
Yeah.
Or that the Force created her. Not that she's related to Anakin Skywalker, but that she was this another idea that the Force would create someone new again. So the Force can do that. So why it would? It's not word. It's. I don't think it should be overused, but
we'll have to look for that when we see it tomorrow.
Yeah, we have to look at it.
But I think like we're talking about the Force, and it's doing its own thing, and the Force is a part of everything. It just tends to do what it wants. Like if Anakin was created by the Force, maybe the Force realizes that wasn't the way to go. We need to find someone who's pretty selfless. I mean, she befriends Finn. She wants to help out this resistance that she knows nothing about just because it's the right thing to do.
Right. It's important to get BB-8 back. We got to get him back to the base.
Yeah, and oh, I feel the light in Kylo, even though I saw him kill his father. Like, I still want to help. Like, this is a very selfless person.
Right.
And the Force maybe just found her from her circumstances and is using her as the temple for to kind of see through that there's a balance. So it may just be that simple, and that is for your own interpretation, and it we don't have to waste movie time on explaining it then.
Right, exactly.
But the scene in the cave kind of makes me think there might still be something.
There's something else there. Yeah, they just teased that big time, and so really cool. The last thing I want to mention is the complexity of this film.
And how risky it was?
Well, it was risky, but what I think is interesting is that, like I said again, that they paid homage, but yet it wasn't repetitive.
Yes.
They had multiple different themes and teachable moments here in this. What you thought was going to happen is not what happened. Even when you were watching it in front of yourself unfold, there was an abrupt sort of, oh no, that's not what's happening. But if you look back later on, I'm thinking in my head, there was like a little bit of foreshadowing that what we thought was going to happen wasn't going to happen. Even if it's in what Luke Skywalker said in the beginning, that one line is seen in the entire movie. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like unbelievable. The complexity in which you want to get in Ryan's mind and actually think about how did he, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But it's great.
I agree.
And it takes there's a lot of layers, I feel like. Just more layers that you got to get into and pull out and kind of figure out how things are connected and all of that, because
way more than we're used to.
On this, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, even throw The Force Awakens in there, which I mean, we talked about some potentially complex issues, but the movie itself was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was even criticized for being straightforward.
I mean, you have 7 movies that are pretty straightforward. I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, so this, you're right. There's just layer upon layer upon layer of just complex matters.
Right, there is, but there's a top layer that is very, when you look at the film, it's exciting, it keeps you on the edge of your seat.
It does.
And it's a good movie. Now, people are going to keep going back and forth and critiquing on where does it fit in the story or whatever, but if you just look at Episode 8 as a movie and what Rian Johnson was sitting there to do, I think I don't think he was paying a whole lot of attention to the critics. He just thought, where should this go? What do I think? This should be, and I'm a writer, and I'm going to write, and here's what I think we should go. I'm going to take it this new direction and be a little risky, but yet be complex, pay homage, do all those different things, and it was complex. But on the surface level, if you're like a teenager going in watching this film, you can still really enjoy it. You can still attach to some of these characters, but it's just amazing how it just doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. Poe's journey really shows you that each time you really thought that Poe was doing the right thing by arresting Holdo, and that is the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
And you learn that, and it's just sort of like you think it's the right thing for Rey to believe in Kylo Ren, but you learn through Luke and Leia, yeah, he is just truly the bad guy. And we keep teasing that we're going to do this, but guys, sometimes in life, the lesson is that there's evil in the world.
Crap happens.
Life, it's, evil's out there, and sometimes we can't fix it. So there's that.
That's dark.
I know. But that's where we're at. His anger is just, he's out of control and stuff. So it just I feel like it kept showing us these things that we thought were going to happen, and then they didn't happen.
Yeah.
We thought Snoke was going to be there to the end. That's not what happens. Like all these things that it will not go the way you think it's going to go. I cannot say that enough. And just because, and I think that might be what some people get a little upset about.
Yeah.
Is sort of that I had in my head it was going to go this way. That's why we said we came out, we were conflicted.
Yeah.
But happy and not necessarily, like I said, I was more satisfied out of The Force Awakens. So when I came out of this, I didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
I was like super amped. Some cool, awesome stuff happened. Great moments. But what? Not at all what I was planning for.
It was just
wasn't prepared for it.
No, a lack of continuity and even tone, though, I was expecting that Luke Rey meeting to be the most serious event in all of Star Wars.
I know.
And the tone was completely different.
Right.
When she walked up, I was like, I feel like I'm reliving the end of Force Awakens. It's going to be so epic.
Right.
And he tosses that thing. So the tone was just different.
Yeah.
It's just, they took a risk here. I know they're losing fans on this one. I know they are. I have a coworker of mine who absolutely hated this movie. Huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So it was a risk. But I think we're just used to a continuation. We're used to kind of, I don't want to say a predictable kind of
hero arc and journey.
Yeah. But then again, it set the table.
I think we were
for a very traditional.
Yeah.
It just didn't get there in the same sense as we're used to.
Well, the thing is, I think a lot of people were comparing it to episode 5.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have been comparing it to episode 2. Or even something just completely different, setting the table for a different adventure. I will say this too. I know my students for a fact were talking this week all about it. And I wore some Star Wars gear and a tie today to work. And they were talking about it. And they love Star Wars, and so like you'll lose the fans that I think that you might lose are the ones who had set in their mind this is how it needs to go for me to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go this way, I'm not going to be satisfied. Those kids in this new generation, they are just primed and ready for you to tell us which way we should go.
Yeah.
They're just open. They're just open to say here's because we consider ourselves like quote unquote, not experts, but quote unquote experts and just, I don't know, fanatics, big fans, whatever, and well versed in the universe and things. And my kids aren't. And I love to see sort of like almost like their innocence in it. And I hear some of their predictions. That's why I said I think some of them could have made better predictions than you and I could have.
Yeah.
Because we're so ingrained in thinking inside the Star Wars box.
That's right.
That if you always stay in that Star Wars box, you're going to get episode 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. You're going to keep getting The Force Awakens. Now, I know Rogue One did a good job at what was there.
Yeah.
But it still knew what it had to tell.
Yeah.
It still had a story to tell between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
7, they played inside the box.
They did.
And they said it was too predictable. So call it what you want. I think our buddy Matt said, well, this could be like the knee-jerk reaction is that all of a sudden we're going to go complete polar opposite of that. No, I think it's complex. And on surface, you have to go back and watch this movie again. They pay homage the same way 7 paid homage. I'm sorry, they pay homage, but they do it in a different way, a more complex way.
Yeah.
That's outside of the box. And it's still, to me, still feels like Star Wars. The weird thing about this is that it just feels like the resistance is so small.
It does.
feels like they're just a small band of rebels. They've gone
all
back.
about that spark.
Right.
They kept saying
They
that.
kept saying that.
Kept saying
and the spark that lights the fire. Well, they start off as this bigger thing and they eventually get down here and it's just like they only have enough left to just barely make a spark.
Yeah.
So what is it that they're going to?
Yeah.
There are other systems out there that are just waiting for this new symbol. Luke has vanished,
Yeah.
right? And at the end, Luke is gone now,
Yes.
you know? And some other hero has to step up.
And you know what I realized? The entire resistance left fits in the Millennium Falcon.
I know. I was going to say that earlier too. Yeah, I mean they're packed in there, but that's it. There's not many left.
So I now though I think episode 9 could expose us to new worlds.
Yeah.
Order. What's it gonna look like? Is the First Order really gonna reign supreme for a while? I would assume.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that band of rebels or resistance is going to have to keep on the move, and I think really Rey may have to go into hiding and sort of build up either her own powers, or she's going to have to. It may be that she goes back to Ahch-To because Kylo kept looking at his hand with all the wetness in the water from when he was touching Rey or was seeing her there, and he was trying to figure out where she was at.
Yeah,
and he still couldn't figure it out. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to Ahch-To, and it's still a secret place.
that'd be crazy.
I don't know. I'm just saying because felt like he didn't know where she was still, and that secret was never revealed. So a safe place where they could go back and she could start to, hone in her powers, and then also maybe pass on what she's learned over 10 years. It just depends on how long they take between, 8 and 9.
Right.
So. All right, guys, that's a lot. We've done. We had a big discussion there. So we love you guys. We love Star Wars. This is just our initial reaction, our initial thoughts, because we have only seen it once. We came right back here and we just decided to podcast about it a little bit and get these thoughts down. We will go watch it tomorrow morning. We'll come back. We'll probably even do another discussion after that because it's what we love to do.
That's right.
And we'll go from there. I'd love to hear what people think, though, down in the comments. If you hated the movie, fine. If you were iffy on it, fine. If you loved it, fine. If you loved it, say you love it. If you hated it, say you hate it.
Absolutely.
It's totally fine. There are people who didn't like Episode 2.
I know people that didn't like Rogue One.
Exactly.
They're crazy.
They're crazy, but they didn't like it.
But they
That's
didn't
fine.
like it.
But then those same people will say, "Well, I liked Episode 5." Fine, fair.
Yeah, fair.
And then I like Episode 6. Well, I hate Episode 6.
Yeah.
That's fine. There's so many different movies there, and there's. I am always someone who's looking for the good in those movies.
Yeah.
I'll acknowledge the bad, and we talked about the humor and the different things. There are some awkward moments, but overall, I'm satisfied, and I need to go back for more.
Agreed.
So I guess I'm unsatisfied. Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching on YouTube. Again, as always, feel free to hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on iTunes. Give us a review if you wouldn't mind.
Right.
And then, I guess check us out on Facebook, too. I've been trying to interact with people more on Facebook. Did a couple live videos there and things. So we would appreciate the support. And as always, may the Force be with you.